Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening to me. Today, I would like to talk to you about a new theory about Mercury and Neptune, the two light planets, planets of light. This is today's topic, and this is something that I have been pondering on for quite a while. You might know about me that I really truly believe that love and light are somehow interconnected. Actually, in Hungarian folklore, we always associated light with grace, unlimited universal grace and happiness, and also joy, and also love. So this is something that I have been thinking about, and when you compare Neptune and Mercury, you will find some fascinating connections. And of course, there are two types of light, actually, because Mercury is the closest to the sun, so it's the innermost planet of our solar system, while Neptune is the farthest so far. So I was laughing when I put together the PowerPoint that I'm going to show you, because today is the 21st of July, so it's actually the summer solstice, the longest day and the shortest night. So this is when light is at our disposal freely and for the longest time. In a day, in a earthly day. And today, of all days, I was trying to put together this. But if tomorrow a nice astronomer detects another planet beyond Neptune, and it's going to be an actual planet, because Pluto isn't. Pluto is a trans-Neptunian. It's a Kuiper belt object. But if they find something, then of course this video will have to land in the garbage bin. But that's okay. I'm still going to try my best. So here's the PowerPoint that I put together for you. I hope I can. I'm not very good at technology, but anyhow. So here's the title: the two planets of light, Mercury and Neptune. Let's see why. First, let's take a look at Mercury. This is a beautiful picture. You can see how this planet has many colors on its surface. And of course, it's the closest to the sun. So it's always immersed by the sun's rays, at least one side of it. And let's take a look at some astronomical facts. The diameter, I'm using kilometer and Celsius because I'm not very well versed in imperial measurements. Forgive me, because we have only metric. So if you need to take a look and see what it is in non-kilometers and non-centigrade. Let's put it this way. Anyhow, so it's about 4,579 kilometers in diameter, and this is the smallest planet in the solar system. It is actually, if you take a look at the surface, it is so-called rocky or terrestrial, just like the Earth. The four planets before the asteroid belt, Mercury, the Earth, Venus, and Mars are all terrestrial types. The surface temperature is very interesting, because you have minus 180 at night, and plus 430 Celsius centigrade during the day. This is because Mercury does not have oxygen around it, so it doesn't have an atmosphere, and that's why it becomes really, really cold whenever it is night, and really hot whenever it is day. Think about it. If we didn't have an atmosphere, this is exactly how we would have to behave. And think about the surface of the planet. That is why it shows so many colors, because it's probably badly fractured. The number of moons is 0. I don't think this is going to change, and I also don't think that the fact that it is the closest to the sun will change. I don't think that we will find another planet closer. I don't believe in the existence of volcano, or whatever they call it. And the average distance from the sun is 57.909.176 kilometers. I don't know. So it's actually 0.38 astronomical units and or 3.22 light minutes. And the orbital period, which is most important for us astrologers, is 88 days. So it's about 3 months. And let's take a look at the archetype itself. So you have 3 distinct figures in Egyptian, Greek, and Roman mythology: Thoth, Mercury, and Hermes. They are all interconnected and they are the same, exact same archetype. We know that Thoth invented writing and sciences. We also know that Hermes was the messenger of gods, so it was Mercury. And if you take a look at maybe the most important or most prominent or self-explainable myths of Hermes is when he was born. And the moment he is born, he feels, first of all, he feels alone and hungry. So what he does is he steals Apollo's cattle. But he's smart enough to lead them, to draw them into his cave upside down, I mean, in reverse, and he eats them, all of them. And then when Apollo starts to look for his cattle, he goes to Hermes's cave and, of course, accuses him of stealing them. And Hermes answers, "Come on, I'm only 1 year old. I couldn't have done this. And plus, look at they were not coming, but leaving my cave. So they went away." So what happens here is the fact that he's already cheating, he's thieving, he's a thief actually, and he's not getting caught because he's a child archetype, and because he's so funny and so childish and so mischievous that everyone accepts what he says and what he does. Okay, so let's take a look at his sacred symbols and animals. The caduceus, which is the double, a rod with 2 serpents crossing over them, and it's like the double helix of the DNA. It's quite fascinating, isn't it? That these ancients must have known something that we only recently realized, and it symbolizes healing through knowledge. Another of his sacred symbols simply is the winged sandals, by which he was able to move very, very fast. We know that it's a fast-moving planet. It actually could move a little over 2 degrees per day. The average is 1 degree, but still it can double its average, which is very, very rare. I think it's the only planet which doubles its average daily travel. It also had a winged hat, which also helped him to move faster. And there are 3 sacred animals associated with Hermes, Mercury: the tortoise, which symbolizes transformation; the ram, which is fertility; and the rooster, which is always the new dawn, the heralding of the new dawn, the new beginnings. The tortoise is interesting because he invents the lyre, and for this he needs the shell of the tortoise and transforms it into a musical instrument. And we know perfectly well that music is an element or a vehicle of transformation. We know this from many, many ways. First of all, in Atlantean times, it was music with which they did so many things, from healing to other balancing the human psyche. And of course, when you take a look at the lyre itself, and Apollo's lyre was very famous, and he was able to restore grace in human beings by his songs. So music is the element of transformation here on Earth, especially when you listen to and are absorbed in music. The rest of the animals, I think you can understand. What does Mercury rule in astrology? Commerce, financial gain. Just to tell you the connection, it also rules thieves. And sometimes we associate big financial gain with thieving, simply because I heard some years ago that in order to be able to be successful on the stock market, 8 other people need to get impoverished and lose big time, and then you can become successful. Think about this. It's not a very nice proportion, to say the least. But anyhow, you can try. Anyhow, so financial gain and thieves are kind of interrelated as well. But of course, he also rules communication, writing, talking, and divination. All sorts of divination are also linked to Mercury. Magic, alchemy, and astrology are the 3 so-called hermetic sciences. Hermes Trismegistus was giving mankind these 3 beautiful sciences, which are all based on the hermetic law, as above, so below. Mercury also rules travelers and travel as such, thieves and thieving, and he also is the guide of souls. He was guiding souls down to the underworld. Of course, he was also the messenger. He was like giving missives and messages to others. And this guiding of souls is the archetype of the psychopomp. In karmic astrology, we have another psychopomp, Persephone, trans Pluto, but of course we accept the fact that Mercury is also a psychopomp. But he always he does this not on his own volition, but usually he does it as a task, which is important. So why is this? Why is Mercury the planet of light? Look at this picture, which is, I think, one of the most beautiful and fascinating pictures. I was totally transformed by this. The little dot there, okay, here is Mercury, and this is the surface of the sun. This is how close Mercury is to the sun. And Mercury simply translates the sun, transports the sun down to the earth plane. For us, it's always emerged in this light. Whenever it is not, then it is cold. This is exactly what happens to us when we lose the light, when we lose illumination, we go cold. I mean, Europe is going to be a really cold place this winter, I'm afraid, because of the idiocy of our leaders. I mean, they should be really transported to the dark and cold side of Mercury, maybe. Anyhow, so let's take a look at Neptune. Here it is, a beautiful picture of Neptune. It's a bright blue planet. Take a look at these light little white things. We are going to talk about it, what they are, but this is Neptune. Okay, so let's look at the astronomical facts. The diameter is almost 50,000 kilometers. It's the smallest of the gas giants, so it's the Jupiter type gas giant, but it's out of the Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. Actually, this is the smallest. And the surface temperature is minus 220 degrees, sorry, which if you consider, there's another link between Mercury and Neptune. If you consider that the dark side of Mercury is minus 180, and it's only 40 centigrade more, I mean, colder on Neptune. Of course, it's an overall temperature. It's always like this, but it's actually quite interesting. To me, it was, at least. The known number of known moons at the moment is 13. It could change, of course. And it is surrounded by a ring system, just like Saturn. It's much smaller. It's really very tiny, but there's a ring. The orbital period is 165 years. And as you could see, the surface is bright blue, and there are patches of methane clouds. So what you saw, those white patches are methane. What are the myths of Poseidon, Neptune? Now, for this, you need to remember that in mythology, usually water is associated with the feminine, and especially seas and oceans were always ruled by goddesses, not gods. But when Zeus becomes the chief god, he gives the ocean to Poseidon. And before Poseidon, it was owned, or it was ruled by Thetis, who actually was Poseidon's true love, but Zeus didn't allow them to get married simply because an oracle told him that these two would bring an offspring who could threaten his rule, so he didn't allow it. So Poseidon is always mad. He's always in a very bad mood. If you take a look at Neptune's astrological meaning and compare it to the myths of Poseidon, for instance, then you will see that there is really not too much correlation between the two. But I'm going to tell you one myth where you will see the link. It's Neptune's story, who falls in love with the oldest daughter of Neros. Her name is Salacia, and wants to marry her, but Salacia becomes very nervous about the whole thing and simply escapes Neptune and goes down to the bottom of the ocean and hides there. And Neptune can't find him. But this is already an interesting little thought, because think about it. He rules the ocean. The ocean is his. He could go anywhere, and still he can't find Salacia, because she is so much deep down there. It's really dark and gloomy and whatever. There's no light there. And this is exactly what's happening to us. If something is really deep down in our psyche, we can't really surface it. We don't know what's there. Things are hiding, lurking in there, and our fears and premonitions might be there as well. And then Neptune asks the help of a dolphin and asks him to find Salacia for him. So the dolphin looks around and finds Salacia, explains that the god of the oceans wants to marry her. Salacia is very happy. She comes up to the surface. They get married. They live happily ever after. And from then on, Neptune gives the light flooded surface of the oceans to Salacia to rule. Here you see light again. So in the story, there's light. And it's important to remember that the myths shows what it is. And here you have the sacred animals and of course the symbols. The trident is the main symbol of Neptune. It actually became the astrological symbol, or the base of the astrological symbol as well. And there are two sacred animals, the horse. It's because he fathers lots of horses, but among them Pegasus, the main horse, so to speak, linked to Neptune. And the dolphin, you just heard the story. Why? Because the dolphin is bringing him Salacia back for him to marry. So those are his symbols. And what does Neptune rule in astrology? All kinds of esoteric knowledge, the arts, especially the arts that were invented after his discovery. So movies, film, photography, and things like that, where light is utilized. Clairvoyance, transcendental experiences, dreams, meditations, visualizations, imaginations, and premonitions. I did not enumerate the bad stuff, but let's talk about that very briefly as well. For that, you need to understand that Neptune is a transcendental planet. It's not visible by the naked eye, so you can't actually see it with human senses, which means it's transcendental. It is beyond the human experience. So it's a higher dimensional planet. If you drag it down to the earth plane, then it will rule all sorts of negative things like deception, pink fog, drugs, alcohol, and things like that. You need to go up there. You need to become part of the universal energy, universal flood, to be able to access its beauties. When Neptune is in the natal chart is important. First of all, the sign is universal. It's generational because it spends about 12 to 14 years in one sign. It's present at the moment. It is in its own sign in Pisces. It's extremely powerful. That is why you have so many crazy ideas and whatever, because we are dragging down these things to the earth plane instead of going up there and experiencing it for ourselves. And at the same time, if you take a look at the house placement, which is more important in a natal chart, that's the sphere of life where you need to go one level higher up in order to see through the pink fog, in order so that it can operate in a nice way. proper way, let's put it this way. And why is it the planet of light? I found this beautiful picture where Neptune, you see, this is the ring. I was mentioning there's another ring here, so it has tiny rings, and behind it is the universe. And that's exactly Neptune's task, to translate for us down to the earth plane the universal light, the light that comes from the galaxies and stars, that is there at our disposal only when it's night. So Mercury gives us the light of the sun, while Neptune gives us the light of the universe. And with it, the two planets are interlinked because they give us what we need. Light in order to see, in order to feel, in order to function. Mercury in our everyday life, and Neptune whenever we want to reach beyond the average, beyond the human experience towards the universal. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.